Hi, everybody. Today's Thanksgiving in the United States. So, for anybody who's celebrating Thanksgiving today, I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Um, what I want to talk about today is the third offense that I mentioned in this three-part video series on offenses to God's grace. And this offense is also something that we were all taught. Even non-Christians know this concept, and it's backwards. Christians, non-Christians, none of them have it right. So I come from a Catholic background, but it really doesn't matter what background you come from. This is all what's taught. But in Catholicism, we were taught that you've got to go to confession, and you got to do this, you've got to receive Holy Communion, and of course that's only for believers. Seventh-day Adventists, they're also really big on uh, worshiping on the Sabbath on Saturday instead of on Sunday. Sunday's wrong. Pentecostals, they have rules about your hair and about jewelry, and so everybody they all have different things that they focus on, but there's one thing that they all have in common. Essentially, in order to be right with God, in order to be saved, whatever, you have to believe in Jesus. Now, um, believing in Jesus said you had to believe in Jesus too, but he said that while the law was still in effect, the law of Moses, 10 Commandments plus 603 more. And while that law was in effect, one of the requirements, the ultimate requirement, is you had to believe in Jesus. And he said you had to believe in him, but he also said when the Comforter would come, he would convince the world of sin because they did not believe in him. And he was saying that to everybody. They didn't believe in him. Nobody believed in him. And that was while the law was still in effect. And so getting to the offense part, this third offense comes from the book of Galatians. And it's about Paul. Throughout the book of Galatians, Paul is talking about how the Galatians started requiring one thing. And Peter was actually promoting this whole doctrine that men had to be circumcised. And he was talking about how when he found out that Peter was promoting that, he got very angry, and he scolded Peter very harshly for that faulty doctrine that the men had to be circumcised for they and their families to be right with God. And he was very angry about it. And he said that basically that's from the law. That's from the law of Moses, and the law of Moses has been abolished. And so it's a very faulty doctrine to require that men be circumcised for righteousness, to be right with God. So being that angry about it, he said, listen, you've got to understand, if you're going back to this one doctrine and you're holding on to this one doctrine for your righteousness, to qualify you for righteousness, you got to understand you're taking that from the law. If you take that from the law, you are a debtor to the whole law, all 613 laws. And if you break one, you're guilty of breaking them all. And he said that is not grace. He said anybody who is justified by the law, even one rule, has fallen from grace. See, even believing was abolished. That was a part of the law. Now, am I saying believing in Jesus is a bad thing? Absolutely not. But I can tell you what is faulty. If you think your believing makes you right with God, and if you think someone who doesn't believe in Jesus is not right with God, you are fallen from grace. That's the third offense, falling from grace. Everybody was taught if you're living a bad life, you have fallen from grace. If you are doing bad things or breaking the commandments or whatever, you are fallen from grace. That is the opposite of being fallen from grace. Being fallen from grace is if you believe you're doing at one thing or several things that make you right with God, you are fallen from grace. Again, I want to wish everybody who's celebrating Thanksgiving today to have a happy Thanksgiving, and that wraps up the three offenses to God's grace. Have a good day.